So these are generally questions all about the CPU, but there are also some questions about computer hardware. All right. So the first thing that says, describe what is wrong with. So it says here, a student is asked to describe what hardware and software are. They gave the following answer. New hardware can be installed by downloading it from the web or an installation disk, whereas software requires somebody to physically attach it to the computer. Well, there are two issues with this, all right? What you can see here, first of all, it said that hardware is downloading it from the internet, but what you've got to do, all right, is, look, think about it this way. They've given you a lot here. It doesn't want you to just state something. It needs to show that you understand it as well. So what you should say here is hardware, all right, is a physical device. All right, so you're given your understanding there. So you say that hardware is a physical device. Therefore, it cannot be downloaded. That's a strong way of writing it, all right? Because you've acknowledged that you understand what hardware is and then said how it's wrong. The next thing, all right, that was wrong with it is that software are programs that get installed onto a computer. But if you have put, because I have seen this, I've walked around, if you have put that hardware and software are mixed the wrong way round, you only get 1 mark. Because you've not shown understanding of why it's wrong. This is what I'm saying. If you get a lot of space, they don't want something that just says, oh, they're mixed up. All right? So this is what you'd get your 2 marks for, because you're acknowledging your understanding there as well. Right? Whereas if you just said, oh, they've mixed hardware and software up, that's a 1 mark. Okay? Right. Moving on to our next question. The CPU is one of the hardware components of a computer system. Define the term hardware. Physical component of a computer system. All right, so it's a physical component. Some people may have said mechanical, but it's a physical component of a computer system. All right. Now, that was 1 mark there. Define the following terms. Hardware. All right. Again, we've got the answer above. All right. So it is a physical component of the computer system. All right. That's 1 mark. But to get the second mark of that, all right, the way that they've split this one up is you say physical component, that would be 1 mark, all right, but for the second mark, which makes up the computer. All right. Now, it's quite interesting how the same answer can be worth 1 mark on one paper 1 year and 2 marks on a paper another year. All right. But there was 1 mark for saying the physical component and then 2 for saying it makes up the device. So just be aware of that. All right. So I would get used to just putting that makes up the computer or and so on. Okay. Next thing, what is software? It is the program Alright? Or instructions they'll accept. Instructions. Alright? That are ran by the computer. And you could even say on the hardware. Okay? So 1 mark for saying the program or instructions, and 1 mark for saying ran by the computer on the hardware. Right, time to move on. Hope we're doing okay with the first section. Right, state 2 reasons why computers have more RAM than cache memory. RAM is cheaper. Alright, you may have forgotten that one, but think about it logistically. Alright, your processor, I mean, you may not know this, but if you ever have to buy a processor when you're building a machine, the bigger the cache, the more your processor costs. Alright, so embedding that cache into your processors actually costs a lot of money. Okay, but RAM is cheaper. Alright, and you can even say per byte. We'll get into some of the harder ones in a minute. All right. Think about the size of the cache. All right. Think about the size of the cache. Does anyone want to volunteer an answer to this one? Yeah.
Very small.
Yeah. All right. You can't hold enough in the cache. Cache is like your frequently used instructions, isn't it? But the capacity. All right. So the capacity of cache memory is not enough to store data and programs, whereas in the RAM we have data and the program. Okay, think about it. Whereas in the cache, it's just the frequently used instructions as we're going through it, all right? Now, many new computers use solid state for secondary rather than magnetic. Explain why solid state is not fitted to every new computer, all right? So, why would solid state not be on every brand new computer? What do you think?
Is price one reason?
Price is one reason. Right, the cost of your PC goes up dramatically if you use an SSD drive. All right, yes, they're faster, but that's also one of the reasons. All right, people want a faster boot up. Okay, but so one of the reasons why we don't fit it to every computer is SSD are very expensive. All right. There's another thing about SSD. Compare it, this is where you have to pull on your knowledge, where you compare SSD to magnetic. What's a big difference there? Where would you use a hard drive? Where are you more likely to use hard drives? Where are you more likely to use a magnetic hard disk drive? What sort of use? You need to pull on this. Yes.
Would you not use a magnetic hard? Would you use it if you're not moving your machine as much?
That's not where I'm going. Yes, SSDs are more portable because there's no moving parts, they're less likely to get damaged. But magnetic hard disks are generally used for backups, for storing large files, games, that sort of thing. But the issue is that magnetic hard drives, you can fit more on them. With solid state, they're a lot smaller in size. You can't fit as much on them. So if you've got an operating system that has a huge amount of space that it's going to take up, think about what you're left over with. Not a lot, all right? So SSDs are very expensive, but, all right, SSDs have a lower capacity for storage than magnetic. Remember that magnetic drives are used for big files, like animators, people that are storing large video files, people that are storing large audio editing, all of that sort of thing. So you wouldn't necessarily use an SSD in that case. Right. Embedded systems. All right. Two differences between an embedded system and a non-embedded system. What you must do here is use, when you see the word difference, you've got to use this and this. So whenever you see, this is exam technique here, wherever you see the word differences, you would need to back up what you're saying. In your exam, one thing that I noticed that people would often focus on one element instead of both. So you need to say embedded systems are this, whereas non-embedded systems do this. So there's your difference there. So what I'm going to do is, because there's a number of points on this you could have had, I'm going to show you the mark scheme for this one. All right. So let's have a look at here. So you can see here, embedded systems have a specific purpose, while non-embedded systems are general purpose. Okay, so you've got the comparison there. All right, can you see, like, than non-embedded, so there's a comparison, so you must mention the two things. So embedded systems have a specific purpose, while non-embedded systems are general purpose. Think about it logistically. Think of an embedded system like a sat-nav in your car. All right, that is a specific purpose, whereas non-embedded systems, think about it, like things like, you know, a general purpose PC, you can do lots of things on it. Embedded systems tend to have smaller amounts of memory than non-embedded systems. Think about what memory you have in a device such as a sat-nav. Not a lot. Whereas your PC, think about how much RAM you've got in it to get it working because of all the different applications. Embedded systems tend to have less processing power than non-embedded systems. Think about your PC, what you have to do. You can do video editing, you can do gaming. Think of the processing power that you need. A sat-nav or an MP3 player that's built into a device doesn't really require that much processing power to play. Embedded systems are built into specific device. Non-embedded systems are not. That kind of goes with what I've just said. Embedded systems tend to have more ROM than non-embedded systems. Think about it. Your PC just has a ROM chip in it to keep hold of the BIOS, to just get to that boot stage. Yeah, really, that's all you need. You just need a little bit of ROM to get you on the startup process. Whereas with something like a sat-nav, the whole, like, all the software is on the ROM chip. It's there permanently. Okay. So hopefully that helps you, and you can watch this video back when I'm talking about that anyway. So the next question is, main memory is any form of memory that is directly accessible by the CPU, except for the cache and registers. Explain how main memory is used. All right. So looking at main memory, this is where you are demonstrating your full understanding of how RAM is used, basically, how the instructions are fetched, how the applications are stored. The applications that are currently running are stored in your RAM, such as when you're on Word, all right, that is in your RAM. So that's what that question is talking about here. So I'm going to, again, because there are a number of points, rather than me handwriting them out, I'm going to go through them with you. All right. So The RAM stores instructions while the program is being executed. That's what I just said, all right? So it stores the instructions while your program is being executed. It stores data while the program is being executed. Think about it. Until you press save, all of your information is stored in the RAM. You can access, control, delete, and see how much of your RAM is currently being used. But that's all stored in the RAM until you press save and move it to secondary storage. Each memory location holds one value. Every memory location has a unique address. So inside your RAM, and I'll show you the little man computer one day, all right? Basically your RAM is split up into lots of different memory locations, and that's where data or instructions are being held. Once the data has been stored in memory, it can be found again later if needed. You can also clear it if you don't need it again. Data and instructions are replaced as memory is needed. So this tells me I need to go over the fetch, decode, execute cycle with you again a little bit. Alright, so I will do that with you in your next lesson with me, okay? I'll go over the fetch, decode, execute cycle, so you've got a firm understanding of that. Alright? The next question, I will pause this video in a minute, alright, asks you to state differences between RAM and secondary storage, okay? RAM is volatile. Can you notice again the point? So if you look at this here, two differences. Wherever you see the word differences, you've got to mention both points, all right? So you can see here, RAM capacity is usually lower than secondary storage. So again, you are comparing. Think about it, RAM, you can get like 16 gigabyte RAM, and so on, and go up to 32, or even further, you know. RAM capacity is getting better, but think about what you can get in terms of hard drives. You get terabytes, petabytes, all of those, you know, you can go bigger and bigger and bigger. You're limited with your RAM at the moment, all right? RAM is volatile, whereas secondary storage is non-volatile. Or if you just said the contents of the RAM is lost when the power's gone, whereas but if you hadn't compared it to the other, if you would have just said the contents of the RAM is lost when the power's removed, in some exams I've seen them make you lose marks because you've not followed on with the other point. Does that make sense? So to compare it to the other device. Now I'm going to pause this recording at this point so that I go over the next two questions as a separate video, okay?